I don't normally do videos on Saturday, and I think I'll be watching Real Housewives of Salt Lake City episode 11 a little bit differently tomorrow, knowing that this week Stuart Smith changed his position from not guilty to guilty. He did do a plea deal, as we kind of thought he was going to do. I don't know if you guys know this, the patrons know, I've explained this before, but the way that a plea deal works, the prosecutor will always go to the least guilty person and offer them the deal first, and then work their way to the most guilty. So for me, this is an indicator that Jen Shah will be approached with a plea deal after Stuart has, completed his. The judge will probably give her one last opportunity to do that before her trial, which currently is set for March of 2022. So Stuart Smith pled guilty the other day, and he actually went in front of the judge and made his speech, which they require. And I'll get into that in a minute. But basically, he pled guilty to money laundering and wire fraud, obstruction of an official proceeding in 2018. He admitted to knowing that he was doing something wrong at the time that he was doing it. He admitted to having control of banking that received money that he knew came from what he perceived as illegal activities because he was aware of the wrongdoing that he was doing at the time. He basically admitted to concealing transactions by using cash because he was trying to hide something on purpose. He admitted lying in an interview to the FTC, I think in 2008, which Jen Shah's defense was relying on. He admitted to obstructing, resisting, or opposing law enforcement with criminal intention, meaning he intentionally did it. So there were some other things that they made him admit to, which will affect his sentencing guidelines. I want to say that on the Patreon, I posted a list. The FTC posts a public list of companies that have been notified for the possibility of wrongdoing. And it doesn't mean that they've actually done something wrong, but it means that the government's been notified that there might be an issue, and they put those companies on notice that they know and they better fix it. So I just want you guys to know that I posted the October 2021 list on the Patreon if you guys want to go see an example. You will be shocked at what companies are on this list. Shocked. The New York prosecutor's office did not mess around. They made him admit in, I guess, the description of what he signed, that he had sold marketing materials and marketing services that had no value to those customers. Now, this is really key because that means he didn't just sell lead lists to people that then did the con. It means he was actively involved with the solicitation directly to the consumer of items that they never could use, and he would falsely represent. So that blurred line between that's sort of been existing of I'm just selling lead lists and actually doing the selling to the elderly person or the person, the victim, now is gone. They have made him that person. So that was pretty big deal. What was shocking was that the New York prosecutor made him admit that he targeted at least 10 people over the age of 55. In the sentencing guidelines, if you target someone that is a specific group because they're vulnerable, or, for any reason, it can be based on ethnicity, it can be based on age, it can be based on disability. It's a group, okay? And in this case, the prosecutors obviously believe that they targeted elderly. So they made him agree that he did 10. Now, they could have gone harder, and they could have said, no, you've got to agree that there's 100, because they said hundreds of people that were elderly originally in the complaint were defrauded. So what they did is they said, we'll stop that number at 10. It could be 100. Now, The fact that they limited it to 10 means that he'll only get a particular point level based on that amount of people, because the judge would look at the amount of elderly that he defrauded, not just elderly generally. Okay, and for each amount threshold, the judge would give more and more points, and his jail time goes up higher and higher. So, yeah. I mean, he's just facing a really tough road now. And he will now go through a sentencing hearing, and I'll tell you what that's like. The fact that Stu already read his statement to the judge, to me, says that this plea deal has been in place for quite some time. So I do believe when they originally notified the judge that, by letter that he may not be going to trial in August, that they had already gotten this deal pretty much done. And we're just finding out about it now because he got his court date to say it in front of the judge. Now, his attorney would have advised him on this day that he needs to come off remorseful. He can't be seen as lying. He has to own that this is the truth. That's imperative in a plea deal. You're not allowed to lie or well, I don't really mean this, but I was forced to do it. You have to be like, this is the truth. Forevermore. He said, I knowingly and intentionally discussed and engaged with other individuals to develop a plan or operation to obtain money by false representation, by offering and inducing individuals, many of whom were over 50 years of age or older, to provide money to entities that I and others were involved with. Went on to say that these telemarketing companies were misleading customers of those entities by selling individuals, many of them who were older than 50 years of age, information that purported to be services to enhance their business opportunities. Okay, so you must be wondering what happens next to Stuart Smith. So I'm going to tell you. So he's got his sentencing hearing in March, which is pretty typical. They usually will do it, 2 to 3 months after. I'd say in this case, because he's definitely going to be going to jail, that they wanted him to be able to at least finish the holiday with his children. What will happen now is he will meet with an officer who is specific for the purposes of trying to do a suggestion to the court of a sentencing guideline suggestion. And what they do is they interview Stuart, and they will ask him questions about his life from the time he was born all the way up, and they'll take a particular interest in certain things, like was Stuart abused, or did Stuart have any criminality in his family when he was a child? They will see if he's had any deaths when he was a child. They will see if he's had any bad experiences in his life that might have been very traumatic for him. They will take a look at his family position now. Is he the sole supporter of his children and his wife? They'll look and see, does he have any past crimes that he's been involved with? Are there any other rationales that might justify this criminal activity? They'll try to, because he plead, they will do their best for him now with what he had to agree to in his plea deal to try to suggest to the judge something that they think is fair, and they have their own formula that they do this off of. And then this ends up going into a report to the judge, and the judge will make a decision based on the report and what the prosecutor... Here's some more stuff they'll look into. Did he participate in charity work in his lifetime? Did he do something that was incredible for a family member, or did he show some other great, he did some great accomplishment that should be acknowledged as part of his role in society? His attorney will advise him to have people write letters on his behalf from family members, friends, people in the community that he may have done nice things for, to show the type of person he is. And what he wants to present to the judge on sentencing with all of these things is, listen, this was like a moment in time in my life where I did something wrong, but here's a bunch of things that might justify why this happened. So it'll be kind of like this, okay? I'm going to really make it simple. But let's say they'll say, okay, he helped the prosecution by doing a plea deal. 2 points down, okay? He targeted elderly people, which is a vulnerable group and a specific type. That's 3 points up, but it was only 10 people. That's 1 point down. Okay. Like it's like this. Okay. His amount of money is, over $1 million, but under 2 million at a certain point, so this is how it goes. Okay. And then there is a extreme punishment for that score and a less extreme punishment for that score. The prosecutor then will come in and he'll be like, throw the book at him. And then the judge might go to the highest if he feels truly he should, the extreme punishment for that number or that score. But a prosecution might come in and say, we've read about Stuart Smith's life and he's had a very difficult life. We weren't aware that, his mother was murdered when he was 7 in front of him, like something, whatever it is. And then the prosecutor might say to the judge, listen, we recommend the lighter number for him, the lighter punishment for this score. If you're going to do the scoring, go off the sentencing guidelines, and the judge will listen and usually do what the prosecution says. So the attorneys usually before, they're talking and he's like, how are you feeling about things? And, so you want to really, you don't want to be going in combative with the prosecution after a plea deal. You want to have things be really cool, good. So that's it. Now, Stuart can help him hire someone with this process. I don't know if he knows that, but he can. He can actually hire an expert probation person to write a summary about his life and all of the things from the defendant's perspective. So in case the report comes back from probation for the government, not the way that everybody would like it, there's an alternative view of him from his side. And then the judge looks at both reports and has two sides to look at. A lot of people don't know that you can submit your probation profile, in a sense, I guess with lack of something to call it, right? Along with the government's, and then the judge can kind of look at both and see how he feels about it. Or she. I just want to interject and say that I really feel so badly that it's come to this, only because now Stuart Smith's life is going to be a living hell for the foreseeable next probably 10 years. And his family will be impacted incredibly. And so on that note, I want to say that, the victims are, can feel satisfied with that part of the outcome. It's a lot. Now, let me tell you what's going to happen with Jen. She will end up spending she's probably already spent like $150,000 to $200,000 on her case. She'll probably end up spending another $150,000 to $200,000 going to court for a jury trial. Now, if she goes to court, her attorney is going to cross-examine Stuart, and Stuart's going to say all these things, which is going to make Jen look damned. But then Jen's attorney can turn around and say, yeah, but you signed a plea deal. Can we really trust your testimony? Can we really believe what you're saying? Or is it because you had this plea deal and you just didn't want to go to jail for a long period of time? And so this was a better out for you. And then he's going to attack Stuart's credibility and character in any way he can. So this is what we're up against, unless Jen settles, because now they'll try to plea deal with Jen. Yep. In the end, my guess is Stuart, although I haven't done his new numbers. I haven't run them because I don't have the proper plea deal. Once I get it, I'll run the numbers. But my guess right now is that he could be looking at about, depending on the restitution amount, 3 years in prison. maybe 4. But at least it's not 7. At least it's not 7. Life-changing stuff.